Hey everyone, welcome back to another exciting episode of Attack Productions. Today I'm bankrupt joined once again by Jake, Nick, and Austin.
What's going on, y'all?
Howdy, howdy.
Hello.
And today's matchup is Austin versus Aaron. Aaron couldn't join us today, unfortunately, but I think a lot of us has a lot of experience with the deck he played, which he played Broly. This is the starter deck Broly. So once Awaken on swings, you draw back up to 6 cards, if I'm correct. And Austin is playing Cooler, the Unison deck.
You gotta have Sparking 7 for that draw on the Awakened side.
Yeah, which is fairly easy,
Very
I feel like,
easy.
for that deck. So let's get into today's matchup. Before we go into your point of view, I just want to ask a few questions because I feel like a lot of Aaron's deck is based on the idea of popping battle cards to pop his cards. And I know they could potentially have other ways of popping his own cards. Did you feel comfortable going into this matchup?
Pretty much. The only thing I was worried about, honestly, was the I thought he was gonna have the Broly chain, and because he played, so like that was the biggest threat I was worried about because I didn't know how much his ratio to hand control to like the aggression was. I didn't know what his win condition really was, and that's like the only thing that I was worried about. I knew the deck was going to have like Rebrians, Zarbons, obviously the 1-drop Broly for Self Awakening.
Well, I saw in your hand you sideboarded for hand control, and I know Aaron had made a comment, or maybe it was Jake at the beginning of this event. I think he showed his deck to Jake, and I think you're the one, Jake, that made the reference like, that's hand control if I've ever seen it, or something like that.
Yeah, I think I said this is weapons grade plutonium.
Yes.
Yeah,
my exact quote. It was all gas, no brakes, as far as hand control goes. I mean, I just took a quick perusing through the list, but it looked like a pretty competent, pretty scary Broly deck to go up against, to be honest.
He charged his dormant turn 1, and that raised a lot of eyebrows for me.
It probably has another.
Depending on how aggro he could go with this deck, charging 1 dormant may not be a problem, because as long as he sees the other 3, he should be fine. And I think the only concern there breaks down to if he can pull off the hand control part of this deck, you ain't gonna have cards to play. I believe it was his mindset. And also, he probably had a really good hand.
Yeah. I think I saw 2 Zarbons in the camera there. But yeah, I had a pretty good hand myself. I didn't know what to charge. I don't like charging knives, but I can't charge that Deborah in there because it's black, and I wanted to use the Salsa in my hand to pop the Broly because I know he runs the Bardock Unison. So with me going first, I was going to take that advantage to go ahead and get that removed, make him take a life or 2, and then so that way he wouldn't get that extra hand control in the beginning, kind of slow his roll down a little bit. Because this deck has a lot of battle card destruction. If it doesn't have barrier, it's gone. And the fact that you can play Unison so freely and easily also gives this deck a lot of aggression. So I pretty much am just trying. And I know I'm not going to do it. This Broly deck does not care about hand control because of its Awakened side, Sparking.
Yeah, but having that really early pressure against a hand control deck, especially green as a color, is really hurtful to it. You kind of want to be at a high life total because you want the game to last a long time. But being at 4 life this early is kind of scary, I would think.
And I will say, I did talk to Aaron since he couldn't join us. Turn 2 was really rough for him. Because he had to awaken early, unfortunately, so that cut down the extra energy he would have had for awakening, and B, he did not see his Unison on turn 2, which he plays the Bardock Unison, which kind of goes into his 1-drops where he had the 1-drop Broly, since you already took care of that. It really didn't matter, but it's another way he could have hand controlled you and then play the Zarbon.
Yeah. So real quick here, we realized there was a weird mess up here, and I mentioned Aaron's like, wait, doesn't Zarbon right here, like, doesn't it, when it's KO'd, you discard a card? And we had talked about it, and since I pretty much had the better. He already made you discard, so that he didn't make you discard again from killing it. And since it benefited me more, he just said, you know what, it's fine. We'll just leave it as is because I got to draw 2 extra cards early. But he wouldn't have been able to KO, so it kind of like washed. I didn't care about having Deborah on board as an attacker, so it didn't matter to me too much. Regardless, it kind of weirdly worked out. Didn't mess up the game state too much, in my opinion. And then here, he's wide open. I don't know what's in his hand.
I would hope at least one dormant.
Yeah.
Especially considering the early charge, unless he just didn't expect the aggression to come out that quickly.
Yeah, because I know his version of Cooler he played was more focused on hand control. I don't know how much he did on actually just turning cardboard sideways. But I expected more aggression out of Broly, which surprised me.
I will say you clipping the 1-drop that early on as well and forcing him to awaken on your turn definitely had to put him in a different mindset on how to continue with this matchup.
Yeah, when you're going against Green, Green versus Green is a rough matchup, I just feel, because you aren't going to have battle cards. They're just going to be KO'd. That's why I like the Broly chain, because, in the activate battle, you can KO cards during the battle. So it's they swing at your leader. Okay, no negates. Oh, my 8-drop ignores barrier, so that card's gone. And that's really fun. I love that chain so much. It's probably still one of my favorite chains in this game. But here I just go into another Salsa just for a little more aggression. I got nothing to KO. I just want another swing.
Well, you're also expending energy, so you can awaken now too.
Yeah.
And you're maximizing those draws off the Unison, leaving your Unison area. You gain a draw, so now you could potentially pay for another Unison on after this swing and go from there.
Yeah. Here he makes me bottom deck 1. I can't remember what I bottom decked there. I think it was
the Goku.
The Goku, yeah. Which I could have used to put a little more aggression on there, but
so even though it's not topping anywhere, I think this is about to come up. The reason why Cooler is such a good deck, in my honest opinion, you have 3 open energy. So if I'm seeing that from you, I know there's a good chance you have a Golden Frieza in hand, and all it takes is paying 3 energy to clear my board. So you have to plan your attacks carefully here. In my honest opinion, swinging first, get you to pay that, and then play battle cards afterwards is the better choice here. But I see he started playing the battle cards first, and I think that's because Aaron had possibly forgotten about Golden Frieza as a potential negate here. Because these Zarbons do not have barrier, if I recall correctly. Unfortunately, there's a glare there, so I...
Yeah, and the issue is that because it doesn't negate the attack, the Frieza, but it is a blocker. So your next attack you can block if you do the first one. And usually what I do is if I know they're going to be aggressive, I'll dormant. And then the next attack, I will just play Frieza. That's my usual play I want to do, but it doesn't always work out that way. And I think I have a dormant in my hand, and I didn't want to use it against this. I was like, if he goes crazy, somewhere, I'm going to want to use it later.
Yeah, you don't want to spend it on a turn where there wasn't much aggression planned anyway.
And actually, I'm just now realizing, for this particular Broly deck as well, he's probably trying to thin his hand down as much as possible as well, so he can maximize on the leader swing too. I just realized that.
Yeah, and him still not seeing a Bardock Unison is rough, because when the leader's awakened, you can only have 2 battle cards on board. And here, I just freeze it, and realized I should have probably discarded 2 cards here. I didn't. We just both kind of forgot about that.
Did both Zarbons have a?
There we go, both Zarbons. So I did right there. Never mind.
I think it's just the one Zarbon. Or do
you get 2?
Oh, okay. I think one was a 1-drop, one was a 2-drop, though.
You're right. That's what it was. You're right. he did search. And then yeah, I sitting here and in my deck, because the locals knows my deck list. Everyone's always afraid of the counter I have, the secret rare.
Well,
because
it's more or less knowing when to. You have to expect it.
Yeah.
Well, whenever you have these two open energy, you have to think he may have the counter in his hand. Do I bait that out now? Do I try to take this attack? And you just have to work on that idea, like what is more important in this moment.
Yeah.
And some decks can deal with it.
That's why I try not to do it, obviously, on the Frieza swing, like, unless like a few matches ago with Fluff when I put against the Zamasu, I knew I wanted to take that hit somehow, So even though it wasn't a game-winning hit, I would immediately win the game, I knew it would put enough pressure where it changed the mindset. So I think those are the better counters, where, because then you have another 20k and 40k double strike on the board also.
Yeah, but if you're gonna end the game, then you can just end the game.
Yeah.
So, is he debating? Okay, see, here's my concern about that. You still have 2 more swings with this Frieza.
Yeah.
And my only concern with this is that he tapped himself out to draw 2. And if he happened to draw into a dormant, it's useless now because he does not have a Unison on board. And he has to rely on sparking negates instead. And here you're just trying to push that 1 damage. That way you, yeah.
Yep. Because once he did that, I knew I'd just push.
Yeah, and if he doesn't have a sparking negate in his hand at this point, that's gonna be that's game. He didn't have one, unfortunately. So yeah.
Yeah, I think this is one of the few decks where you actually want to play sparking negates on top of dormant as well, because of the sparking 7, sparking 5 is so easy to get.
Or even homicidal clones, which doesn't require sparking, just 5 or less life.
Yeah.
I mean,
clones is really strong against the Frieza, particularly.
Yeah. Especially because you get the negate, then a blocker, and I've already used Frieza, so I can't KO the blocker.
So with that being said, thank you for tuning in. Keep in mind his buttons down below and on the screen while I pass it off to somebody.
Let us make mistakes. You don't have to. Make sure you read your cards and know your plays, and fluff out.